Developer update January 2024, the first dev update that I actually care to read. They start off with a Happy New Year, which of course is also coming from me. Our team is back in action and we've got a doozy of a developer update in store for you today. And trust me, they do. As most of you know, I don't tend to be reading developer updates, nor will I do it this time, except for the Hillbilly one. We're just gonna quickly go through until we get to Billy, because yet again, I don't read patch notes, except when it comes to Billy. Most of you know that. And for generators, they tried to fix tree jetting, which, in my humble opinion, did not work out. If you look at the base damage from kicking a generator, has been increased to 5% rather than 2.5% before. And at least 5% of the generator's total charges must be repaired. So that Skull Merchant game, where you're going to be locked in for like 3 hours, as far as I can tell, but yet again, I'm not going to go over this point for too long, that means that they're still going to be able to hold it as much as they did before. Even better. So I genuinely do not really know what is going to be happening. So the first setting that I do want to talk about is the FOV setting. As you can see, Shadowborn permanently locks into one of your perk slots. I can answer that with a simple yes, since I am a Shadowborn addict. It's about to change thanks to the new first-person field of view, the FOV Slider. Many people have been asking for an FOV slider for quite some time, including me, not as vocal as some others, but it would be really nice. Having to choose one perk just to have that wider FOV, which makes it easier to curve, like I said in my guide for example, is a little bit of a handicap you put on yourself. So, and once you got addicted to Shadowborn, it was really hard to play without. Shadowborn abusers will know what I mean. Now, on to the most important change of the evening in this video. The whole purpose of my existence in DBD, the Hillbilly. As some of you know or may not know, I'm a Hillbilly main. Play quite a lot of Hillbilly, you know, got quite a lot of videos on it. As far as I can tell, this seems to be a really good start towards the direction we want Billy to go. There were a few base problems that we encountered with Billy on every map, in every game, that are being addressed currently. A lot of people were talking about overheat being a mechanic that shouldn't be in the game, which I somewhat agree on. I have also been very vocal against overheat since I don't think it was necessary in the first place. However, once it got implemented, you could tell that you're not going to be overheating as much as we were initially thinking. Afterwards, it turned out that the overheat is somewhat annoying, especially against really good survivors, but in your average pub game, it wasn't really that much of an issue. What we did notice in the past few months is that maps were getting more cluttered. There was way more clutter on the ground, objects you were bumping into that you shouldn't be bumping into, no more traversability of Billy. Those kind of things were changed / reworked, and it made it really hard for people like us that play Billy to actually keep on playing him. So the first change they implemented is overdrive. As far as I can read the patch notes, they will not remove overheat, but once you're overheated, you will go into overdrive. As they say, the overheat mechanic is no more. Overdrive is the new talk of the town. Now what will this do? Your chainsaw charge speed is increased by 5%, which is insane. The chainsaw sprint movement will be increased to 13 meters per second, which is quite a big improvement. Although I am very curious to see what they're going to be doing to double engravings. And the chainsaw sprint cooldowns are reduced by 10%. Yet again, I'm looking forward to all these changes. When they say that chainsaw sprint cooldowns are going to be reduced to 10%, I do think that's already a great start. But for me personally, one of the biggest changes that I still haven't seen anywhere and also haven't seen being addressed in any of the patch notes in the past is when Billy had a speed boost after coming out of his chainsaw run. This is a perfect example of where this little speed boost is actually really helpful. Without, I would have never made this. Back in the days, that used to be a standard thing. When Billy had a chainsaw run, or a curve for example, we call it a chainsaw run, and you would let go of the chainsaw, you had a small speed boost for a few seconds.
Perfect, because now I can make it.
And that thing completely vanished out of nowhere. I believe it was around 4.5, 4.6, I need to rewatch it again. And nobody really addressed it. It's been shadow nerfed ever since. And I really do think that that is a really strong thing that got shadow nerfed, got obliterated. We have no clue what happened to it, to be honest, because yet again, there's no patch note about it. But that is something that I would like to see coming back as well. I think that is also one of the last things that would make Billy 100% playable the way he needs to be playable. In my humble, non-biased opinion, that is. We just talked about overdrive coming in, which is yet again already a really, really good thing that is going to happen. Now, what they also were going to do is make some general improvements to the Hillbilly's kit, and they smoothed out some of the rougher edges, which means his base chainsaw sprint movement speed has been increased by 10%, knowing that yellow engraving is 15% and green engraving is 20%. I would like to see how they're gonna do this. Are we gonna be seeing yellow engraving being nerfed to completely changed? Will we see an increase on green engraving to make up for the 5% loss on the yellow engraving that they could possibly be throwing away? It's something that makes me a little bit iffy for the moment. I am very happy yet again with all the changes. I'm not the type of complainer that will keep on complaining about everything and every small thing changing. However, I do want to see what they're going to be doing to double engravings. They reduced the size of the chainsaw's collision detection to make chainsaw sprints maneuverable in maps with high density tile. Some of you may not know the add-ons of Billy, but there is this one add-on called Heavy Clutch. What does Heavy Clutch do currently? It reduces the collision zone width 30%. Basically what they're doing with this is making this add-on base kit, which is really cool in my opinion, because if this could remove all the bumps and stuttering, although I will still bump quite a lot, it will really improve Billy's way of playing. One last thing that they finally fixed is a camera sensitivity that is no longer incorrectly tied to the controller sensitivity settings. Back in the days you had to put your controller sensitivity setting to at least 85% to be able to curve. Now I always played with 100%, so I wouldn't have an issue as much as some others, but I do have Billy friends that played, for example, 40% with 800 DPI, for example, whilst I'm playing 100% 800 DPI. So I do want to see if that is going to be somewhat of a muscle memory fuck for some of them, but normally this should be alright. And then on to the last part, which I already explained to you guys, that I'm a little bit iffy about, and I still want to see what is going to happen. But for the add-ons, last but certainly not least, we have done a pass on the Hillbilly add-ons with these changes in mind. This blog post is long enough as is, so keep an eye on the patch notes when the PTB goes live. I personally think that there's going to be add-ons reworked towards the whole overdrive idea. I really do hope that they will not do anything to engravings. Yet again, if you get 10% more base speed, then please do not nerf engravings in such a way that they're not usable anymore, or that the math doesn't match up. That's the whole idea. Please Bhvr, do this right. Do not nerf double engravings in a way that the math doesn't match up. The most ideal scenario, in my honest opinion, would be that they buff Doom engraving for it to be, let's say, 25%, so it matches up with 10%, so you have another 35%. That way they can remove the yellow engraving and do something with that. By doing this, we could have Low Pro as a second add-on, but with the speed of double engravings. This is absolutely an ideal situation for Billy, having the speed of double engravings, but also having Low Pro as an add-on. However, I'm a little bit scared they're going to be nerfing them. Knowing Bhvr, they're going to be like, you have 10% increase, so we need to get rid of 10% out of the both add-ons. So I'm a little bit scared for that, but we will have to see what the future brings, and especially what the PTB brings. Now, I'm not going to go over all the rest of the developer update. Yet again, there are way better content creators that are capable of telling you what else is going to change. I specifically am a Billy player, so I wanted to talk to you guys about Billy, and of course Shadowboard, because I'm a Shadowboard addict. Now, hope you all enjoyed, and we will see each other soon on the PTB. Have a good one, gamers.
I've been daisy, life is getting hazy. I can take it, life is fucking crazy. Yeah, I'm new to this, don't know much, my